welcome to Sheer Edge Training. Today's live chat is all about presenting yourself confidently, and we are very lucky today to be joined by the lovely Brian Barry. Brian is a professional event MC, coach, presenter and a speaker. Hi Brian, how are you today?
I'm well, thanks Karen, and thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. Before we get going with the conversation, I just wanted to give you a quick summary about the things Brian's going to talk about. He's going to give you some top tips how to deliver a successful presentation. He's going to talk about confidence. He's going to give you do's and don'ts. So at the end of this, hopefully you'll leave with some really great top tips for how to present and be more confident when you're on stage or in front of these lovely Zoom cameras. For those of you watching us on Zoom or Facebook, please feel free to drop us messages either in the chat on Zoom or in the comments box on Facebook, and we'll pose any questions or comments to Brian. So now you all know who Brian is, I'm going to get cracking and ask him some questions. So Brian, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Right. So everybody that's watching, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and how you've got to where you are today?
Wow, now Karen, that's a loaded question. There's so many things in there. Let's go through that now. A bit about myself. I'm 1.91 meters tall. I think that's 6'5" inches. So there's a bit about myself. My name is Brian Barry, as the logo said there, and I help others gain the confidence to speak up and stand out. That's what I do. And what I do now, well, basically anything for money at the moment, but I also do speaker coaching. I do professional events like an event MC. Not many of those happening, but soon they will come back. And I also do business training. So anything from leadership to management training, to sales training, to helping sales teams cope with the digital world that we're in, and also just everyday sales stuff that, you know, sometimes you forget you need to brush up, or if you're new into the world of sales. So anything like that. But my key focus is really presentations coaching, and I love doing that. That's it. And you also asked me, how did I get to where I am today? Well, all credit goes to my gorgeous wife, Kate. She's the one that we sat in our lounge in Johannesburg a few years ago, and she said she's tired of this. And we packed up everything and we came to Ireland. And we landed in Dublin. It was a lovely sunny day. I know it sounds unreal, but it was. And I don't know what they're on about the weather here. It's grand. And yeah, I've been here 5 years, and it's been a roller coaster. I've been in business networks, and I've met so many people here. Because previously I used to only work in companies. So I used to be in telecoms. I worked for big telecoms companies and did training. I even was a DJ in clubs and pubs and all that kind of stuff. I've done radio, so FM radio to retail radio. And then I worked in IT for a few years, and I did marketing. I did a marketing diploma. So it's quite varied, but it always came back to speaking. And it was always me who was chosen to be the guy to stand up on stage and take control. And when I came to Ireland, I thought, well, I'm going to make use of that, and I'm going to build this business in presentations, coaching, and speaking. So that's a little bit about me and what I do. I hope that kind of gives you a good scope of the last 20 odd years.
That's a précis of your CV, isn't it? In like 1 minute, that's what you've done.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Do you find then that your varied background and roles that you've had really helps you when you're meeting people? You know, because you've got such a varied background. Do you think that that's a positive?
Definitely. You know, when you get faced with different challenges, it's always, you can call on your old experience that you've had, even if it's 20 years ago. There's certain things that never change. When I worked in IT, that was 20 years ago. So whatever I learned then is no longer valid because the IT systems are all different now. But certainly being a DJ in places like clubs and pubs, you're automatically the MC. You're automatically the person at the front who has to get people going. And that really has helped me be a professional MC in a different genre of speak up, and you know, whether it be corporate events and those kind of things. It always helps. So it's different size audiences, whether it be a meeting. So I've had to present in front of C-level meetings, CEOs, CFOs, to present products and services in the telecoms world that I worked in. So I've taken that right through to, as I've mentioned, being in a nightclub, speaking to a loud bunch of people, or even at a football match where they give you the mic and you get to open the event. I've done stuff like that as well. So, 50,000 people sitting there peering down on you. So it's all of that experience really helps. And I always say to people, the more varied things you can do in life, the better, even if you're an accountant who only does one thing all his life.
So what do you enjoy the most about the coaching, presenting, that kind of part of the role that you do?
What I enjoy most is I love working with people from different backgrounds. I've had on my courses that I offer anything from people from trade backgrounds like builders and plumbers that sometimes just have to present themselves better. And the focus really is on, I'm not there to teach you what you do. Whether you're a painter or a programmer, whether you're a plumber or a project manager, it doesn't matter to me. What I do is I take your expertise and I get you to gain the confidence to be able to stand up and articulate best to an audience what it is you do and bring it across in the best way possible so that you stand out from the clutter. So that when next you're at an event, at a business networking meeting, and there's a whole bunch of people that do the same thing as you, how do you stand out? How will people choose you over the others? And that's really what I do. So I love meeting people from different backgrounds, different genres. Where today it might be someone in a suit and tie, tomorrow it might be someone in a blue overall. It doesn't matter. I don't mind. It's about, I learn most of their backgrounds, their industries, and that helps me grow myself as well. But I most enjoy seeing the transformation, seeing someone come in. Sometimes they look down, they're shy, they're introverted. They say, oh, this is not for me. I'm not good at this. And with some people, it takes a bit more effort than others. But at the end of the day or the end of the hour or however long it takes to get them to stand up and be able to do a speech, and they get to present themselves or their product or their message, and you can see that transformation from when they came in to when they leave, and just the sheer excitement in their eyes when they go, wow, I can do this now. Yay. That is really what I love doing.
So when you first meet somebody, right, and you're going to teach them and coach them how to be more confident at presenting, what are the first few things that you do with that person?
Well, usually I greet them and I, good morning, good evening, and I'd offer them a cup of tea or something. You mean like, well, how did the process go? Yes. Well, we usually start off with a reality check. It would be really silly of me to assume that all of us are on the same level, that you've never spoken or you've never done anything like this before. So I would usually start by asking someone to prepare something up front. So a 3 to 4 minute presentation on something that you either are hoping to get better at, so you're going to do it in the near future, or something that you've done in the past, just so that I can gauge where you're at. We do the whole thing live, and even now with the advent of remote working, like with Zoom and all that, stand back from the camera, stand up, let me see how it is that you present, what it is you do. Then I can go into the steps and say, right, you need a bit more here, you need a lot more there, and then we can kind of formulate the plan to see what this person needs focusing on. That's on a one-to-one basis. In a classroom environment where there's 5 or 10 people, then you can really see how you can learn from all the others. Sometimes people are a bit more introverted or more shy because they think, ooh, there's other people here. But the nice thing is, there you kind of build up the rapport in the beginning. You do different games, and it's nothing about speaking, but you get people to do certain things which inherently adds to what they're going to learn later. So by the time I say, oh, remember this game we played earlier? Now it comes into play where you can use that skill. And it really is a process that you go through. And as I said earlier, for everyone, it's different. Some people do this already. They just want to sharpen their saw. Others have never done it. I've had people that come in, do it one way. You go through a day's worth of learning, and at the end, they do it very much the same. But it's just a case of practicing. It's just a case of getting over the hurdles and moving on.
Do you think everybody can be made more confident at speaking and presenting?
Definitely. There'll be various levels of it, but definitely everyone can have the opportunity at least to stand up. And it all depends on how much work you put in. It all depends on, do you practice? Do you plan? Or do you just wing it? So, and your willingness as well. If you can tell yourself, a lot of it is just in the mind. It's, if you tell yourself you are able to do this and you're good at it, then that's what your body will think and that's what your mind will think. We kind of listen to that voice in our head. If you change the voice to a positive one, then there's no reason why you can't do it.
One of my old bosses said to me once about presenting, he said, just always remember, nobody really wants to do it. So they're all looking at you and thinking, oh my God, thank goodness she's doing it. Because everybody else is there thinking, I really don't want to present, but you're doing it. That's amazing. I'm going to clap. I'm going to cheer because I haven't got to do it. So I sometimes think of that actually people are supporting you because they don't want to do it. So they're like, oh my God, well she's doing it. Let's give her a clap. Let's cheer her. So I tend to think of that as well.
No, you're 100% right. And you'd be amazed. I mean, when I worked in the telecoms, I was part of a training team, and we used to train retail stores. We used to go to them, make sure that they do you kind of over the shoulder training where you kind of observe what they're doing. And when the customer's gone, you can go back and say, right, try this, try that. There was classroom training, like proper stand in front. I've dealt with corporate salespeople where you go along to meetings and you just fly on the wall. They say, oh no, this is a new person, and you learn how they do it, and you go back and you recap. And even in a group of trainers where we were being trained on new products or new services or new skills, and we had to obviously present back to management, even then they would go, oh no, I'm not doing it, and I'm like, this is what you do for a living, you get paid for this and you don't want to do it. And they would always choose me. I don't know why, but I guess that's why I'm still doing it, and they've all moved on to other things.
It's because you're 6'5", and they're like, we're not going to mess with him. He can do it.
I think that could be it. Yeah, someone once told me I'm very tall, and I don't often see that. It's like I just look at all of them.
I tell you another thing as well, that I think when you're in a situation with colleagues or friends, actually I feel that's more pressured to present, because are you being judged as a colleague and a co-worker? Actually, are your friends going to see you maybe flounder, maybe not do very well? So I think I'd rather present probably to people that I don't know rather than people that I do know, because they don't know you, and almost that they can't judge you, which that's probably me being a little bit scared. But I think if I was presenting in front of my friends, you'd be like, oh my God, what are they going to say afterwards? Are they going to be nice, or are they just going to be honest?
You're right. That is one of the biggest things when you do presenting. It's more difficult presenting in front of your peers and people you know than it is to as you rightfully said, an audience that you don't know. That's why someone asked me once, how do I just get the confidence to go and walk up in a soccer stadium or a football stadium, grab the microphone and speak to 50,000 people? And I'm like, first of all, they're so far away. I can't see their faces. And there's so many of them. If one guy yells at me, I'm not even going to hear him. So you just do it. But when the meeting is smaller and there's 3 executives in front of me, 3 CEOs, then it becomes a lot heavier. Then it becomes kind of they're breathing down your neck and they look you in the eye. So yeah, it is. For some, it's the bigger the audience, they think, oh, there's more people. But for others, the smaller the audience, because they think, no, it's too intimate. But yeah, it usually is. And that's one of the tips I give people is when you're practicing, practice in front of your peers. Because if you can do it in front of your other half, your partner, your best mates, or your colleagues that you work with, and there's a certain thing about life where we always tend to slag each other, especially here in Ireland. The Irish love slagging each other, but they say it's a good thing. But you got to have nerves of steel, But if you can do it and they eventually turn around and say to you, you're great, well, then in front of other people, you'll be okay.
So what are the most common mistakes that people make that you've seen or can advise us on?
Well, I'm going to use an acronym, which we shouldn't do, but it's PPP, not PPE, PPP. And that's piss poor planning. People do not plan. they plan poorly, or they don't plan at all. They decide to just wing it. It's something that they've seen once, or they know once. You know, no athlete, whether that athlete is a professional or even an amateur, goes into their sport unprepared or without a plan. You know, people may know their stuff and they think they can wing it, and they talk for a while, but what happens is they don't stick to the allocated time. Soon this ends in disaster, because all that happens is they waffle on about specific points where certain other points get left out. They spend too much time on one slide, for instance. If there's a presentation, they don't get to the rest, and then they try and catch up at the end. And they try and quickly rush through everything. Or someone might ask them a question right in the beginning, and then that question becomes the whole presentation, which is wrong. Now, if you planned properly, you would know where to say what you need to say, or keep your questions and answers to the end, or do something like that. And also, when you're not planning, you're open to anything that can be thrown at you. Whereas if you plan properly, you can think up, what type of questions may I get? You know, you can have time to research the audience, see who's going to be there. So that all goes into planning. And if you don't plan, then your worst nightmare will come true when you're up on stage. And all that happens then is you choke up and die. And that's the short end of it. And the other thing that people don't do is practice, you know, practice. So it's all about practicing. It's not just about planning it, writing it down, making the fancy PowerPoint presentation, or even if you're just going to speak it, you know, you have all your words written down. You need to practice it out loud. You need to do what I'm doing now, speaking to it. You need to go and speak in front of the mirror, speak to yourself. We all have mobile phones or smartphones with a camera on it. Record yourself and go and look at it again. Then you'll notice, oh, hang on, I speak too fast, or I fumble over my words, or I keep saying or I keep snapping my fingers, or I do something wrong. And then you know not to do it, because that's the only way to do it. Preparation. And again, as I've mentioned earlier, go speak in front of your peers, you know, grab the husband, the wife, the partner, sit them down, even the kids, and say, even if you don't have a family, you live on your own and you've got a dog, speak to the dog. You know, even if he falls asleep, at least it's someone that you can focus to. And that's one of the things that people make mistakes on, is planning, or two things: planning and preparation. If you plan everything from start to finish, and you prepare, you speak it out loud, then you are 50% of the way there. The rest will just flow in nicely.
I think it's actually quite hard to watch yourself back, isn't it? You know, that I've done a few like interviews like this, and I've done a few recordings on Zoom and on my phone, and actually when you come to listen to yourself, you just think, oh God, like I sound like that, or God, I wish I hadn't said that. But actually it's almost really good therapy to do it, because you can hear how people hear you and see you as well, I suppose. So as scary as it is, actually that is really sound advice, that if you can listen to yourself back or watch yourself back, you can see what you do. Like, are you always touching your hair? Are you always like touching your face? Or another one of my old bosses said to me as well about if you wear glasses, he said that if you need them, wear them. If you don't need them, don't have them as an accessory. Don't have them on your head or on your top, because actually it kind of distracts you a little bit. So if you need them, wear them. If you don't have them, because you know sometimes they're on your head, aren't they? And it's like, oh, is it a bit cool? Well, actually no, is it distracting you or from what you're actually trying to say?
Yeah, no, you're 100% right there. And it goes further than just glasses. Everything. If you know that you have to present somewhere, most of us are probably doing it now like this on electronically, you know, via Zoom or other software, Facebook, all of these kind of things. If you have to be, you're obviously each time you want to try and be professional. And if you know you're going to be in a cooped up room and it's going to be hot, make sure that you wear something lighter. Don't dress up in a thick jacket and a thick coat and a tie, and then 5 minutes in, you're starting to sweat and itch and shiver and oh my God. Or sit in the opposite, sit in a room where there's an air conditioning, you know, piped down to 15 degrees and you're freezing. Because make sure that everything's normal and natural. It's like an athlete that has to run a marathon. he or she doesn't buy brand new shoes the night before, you know, rather use the old ones because they're trusted, they're worn in, and I'm not going to get blisters from them. And the same goes for presenting and speaking, you know, work with things that you're familiar with. Too many people I've seen rock up at presentations and then they get given, let's say, a different laptop or a different type of clicker, and they don't know which way is which way, and they click the wrong buttons and the slides run off and they go, what have I done now? You know, and that's, again, if you get some planning and preparation in there. You know, in the UK, there's a great program, and I love watching it, called Location, Location, Location. In the world of speaking and presenting, it's preparation, preparation, preparation. Prepare 3 times over and you'll do it right once.
Sound advice. So you've given us one really good piece of advice: preparation, preparation, preparation. Have you got some more top tips for us to enable us to present more confidently?
Yeah. So confidence in general. You know, most people think you're born with confidence. Some of us do have more confidence than others, and it obviously stems from your upbringing. But we're all confident in different areas and confident with different items and different things in life. The first time you drove a car, for instance, you know, some people may have looked at how your parents did it or how the instructor did it and thought, oh, that's easy, I'll jump in there. The clutch is over here, the gears are over there, and off I go. Other people will take 10 times before they can even start the car. But once you get it done, and if you've been driving for a few years, it becomes second nature. It's kind of like muscle memory, you know. These days we're all driving with the phone, not that it's legal. You've got a burger in the side, you've got the kids in the back, you know, you're yelling at someone in the street, get out the way, hoot here, grab something out the glove compartment, turn up the radio. The actual driving bit is like, you don't even think about that, you know. The same with if you have to go to London, for instance, for the first time and you have to use the underground. You don't know where to buy the ticket, you don't know which line to pick, you don't know which way to go, you don't know, is the train going this way or that way? You know what I mean? I mean, I don't know how often you go to London. You still get lost in it?
No, well, to be fair, like before lockdown, I was in London quite a lot, and luckily I've got the app on my phone, so that means that I can find my way around on the tube. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a clue, because I don't think it matters how many times I go, I still don't know which is east and which is west, and I don't know, you know, like I need the app to put in I'm here and I'm going to here, so then I'm confident that, okay, I know where I'm going, I know how long it's going to take, I know where I'm going to come out. Because I think if I didn't have that, you'd be thinking, I don't even know where to go, like I don't even know which direction I'm going in. So I think that for me is a real confidence tool, that you think I can do that, because actually it's fine. And then if you need to walk to your destination, you've got Google Maps, haven't you? So actually you're making yourself confident by having these tools around you.
So the same goes for speaking, the same goes for presentations and public speaking. If you have to present at an event or speak somewhere, again, it's all about the planning. Make sure that you've got everything you need. Plan properly, plan the speech, plan the presentation if you're going to need one. Plan according to your allocated time. If they say to you, you only have 10 minutes or you have half an hour, then make sure that the content that you have will fit into that time bracket. Now, I'll tell you one thing, you may take 2 or 3 days to plan for a 2-hour event. And if they say to you, oh, you only got 20 minutes, that is a week's worth of planning. It takes longer to plan a shorter time frame than it is to take a longer, because the longer one, you can waffle on, you can put in stories, you can tell a story, you can take people through a journey. The shorter it is, if it's the same content, it takes you a lot more effort to get that in. And again, you can't just, I'll shave 10 minutes off here and 5 minutes off there. It becomes a completely different speech, a completely different presentation. And the more often you do it, the more confident you become with it. So people that speak confidently are often masters at their crafts, not so much the speaking craft, but that which they do. If I got a motor mechanic that's got 50 years experience on working on engines up on stage, and you ask him something about a 4-cylinder engine, he'll waffle away forever. If I get a florist in that's had a business for 30 odd years, she can tell you everything there is about every flower, how long they last, when to plant them, how to trim them. The same thing, but swap those two people, they'll have no clue what they're talking about. And it's just getting the craft across in terms of the confidence to speak in front of an audience. And the more often they do it, I get so many people that say to me, oh no, one-to-one is easy. I can speak to Karen all day, but don't put me up on a stage with 50 other people. What's the difference? All you got to think of is just there's 50 Karens sitting in front of you, and it's all the same. You're just telling your story, you know?
Yeah.
So plan the presentation, plan and focus on what's important and what needs to be said and what needs to be delivered, and any visual aids that you're going to use. And then, of course, the practice. Practice, practice, practice. We've all heard it. Practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
There's a very famous golfer, Gary Player from South Africa. He's in his 80s now, might be even 90. And he's been playing. He literally played for over 50 years. And people always used to say to him, golf is a game of luck. You either get it or you don't. And he said, well, funny that. The more I practice, the luckier I get.
I like that.
So there must be a correlation there somewhere, you know? And it is. The more you practice, the better you become. And then you'll be better at what you do. The more you drive the car, the more often you go on the tube, the more often you work with flowers, the more you do something, the easier it becomes, right? And that's just it. The more involved you are with the topic that you're speaking about, the easier content will come to mind, or an answer will come to mind when someone asks you, and you can kind of make it up on the fly. But speaking is all about planning and preparing and practice. The more you practice, the better. Research your audience. Make sure that you know who's going to be there. Do as much as you can, and make sure that you have enough time. Now, it's not always possible. Sometimes people chuck you in the deep end and they say, oh, you've got to do this tomorrow. Okay, but then find out as much as you can about the audience. Research online, phone people who's closest to the event that will know who's there, what type of people will be there, and find out what it is that you can about them so that you know how to pitch your presentation towards them, and that it's at their level and they understand where you're coming from. Never apologize. Never get up there and say, oh, hi, sure. You know, they only asked me to do this yesterday. No, that kills your confidence completely, because now everybody in the audience thinks already, it's going to be a disaster, you know? Whereas if you get up and say, look, here we are today, and this is my topic, and I'm going to talk about it, and you carry on without ever apologizing for anything, rather share with one or two people afterwards off stage, you know what, they only gave me this yesterday. That will buy you so many more points as such, as if when you got up in the start and said, oh no, sorry, I have to apologize. That just kills it for you. So that it goes all with the confidence. It's the planning, the preparation, the practice, knowing your audience, and ensuring you follow the correct structure. The structure of any speech, there's a start, there's a middle bit, and there's an end bit. And the start bit, we all have heard the saying, you've got 10 seconds to impress someone, or something like that. Some people say it's 5, some people say it's a minute. You only have one chance at a first meeting. So open with a bang, open with something that'll grab their attention, whether it's about the topic or completely the opposite, whether it's a rhetorical question, sometimes it's a real question, you know, that you want to ask people, and you want a response. You want people to put their hands up. So open with a bang, focus on the content, whether it be 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour long. Go through, if you have any visuals like slides, etc., that you have to go through. And obviously you've practiced this, you know where you are, you know what to say. And as you're practicing, when you're saying something and when you cover a certain point or topic, think of what questions could people ask. And then you can have an answer for that. Even if no one ever asks you, if there's time, you could even give them that information. You could even say, have you ever thought of X, Y, and Z? Well, let me tell you, this also happens. And there you go. That's giving extra information that isn't always on the slide or always in a brochure that people are. The last thing people want is for you to just read words off a slide or say everything that's in a brochure. You know, I've come to an event, an expo of some sort. You've given me and there's a whole nice write-up, and here's someone on stage, and he or she just speaks all the words that's in the brochure. I'm like, well, I could have read that and gone home. So, keep something extra. And then the end, again, ensure that you want to leave them wanting for more. So kind of end with a bang as well. And it's nice if you could close that loop, the bang that you started with, that question, you could maybe give the answer at the end as such, if there is an answer. And a story that you've told, it's 10 times better than just citing facts. So always try and tell a story when you're presenting, whether it's only 5 minutes long, make it into a story, and that's it. And most of all, breathe. Just breathe. Everybody forgets to breathe. They get up on stage and they go, "Hi, my name is Brian, and I'm here today to talk to you about Shirish," and they go, and your brain is kind of empties out, and they get to a point and they go, "Where am I? What am I saying? Who's this?" And if you just breathe up front, take it at a slow pace, and again, if you didn't practice it and you didn't plan it, then that's what happens. So if you practiced and you planned and you know what you're talking about, there you go.
Well, before we go on to questions, I've got a little funny story to tell you. So my sister got married a few years ago, and myself and my other sister were reading at her wedding. Now, I wasn't too bothered. I've read at quite a few weddings now, and they tend to be the same choice of poem or like prose that you read. So I was like, yeah, that's fine, no problem. Practiced it, yeah, fine. My sister, on the other hand, didn't practice hers. It is funny now, not at the time. We didn't laugh about it for quite a while. So she got up to read and did exactly that. She got up and she read like that and then breathed at the end, and it was like, I know, like, and you could just sense her nerves at having to do it. So, you look back and you think, if you just read that like 10 times, you would have felt a lot better. But we do laugh about it now. We didn't laugh about it for a little while because it was just a sore subject. But I think that, that highlights, what you've just said there, that actually if you prepare, if you read it, if you take time, if you breathe, then you are going to be fine in the end. So. But well, thank you for that very informative little chat we've just had. Before we let you go, we are going to ask you some questions, if that's okay. Sure. So the first question is, what happens, so if you're, say, on stage presenting and something goes wrong, or you make a mistake, or you're just, something happens and you draw a blank, or you panic, what are your kind of recommendations for overcoming that when it happens?
Very good question, and that often happens. So again, back to the planning and the practice. If you've practiced your speech, then you'll know where you are, and it happens to all of us. I've been to speaking events where there's professional speakers in a competition and they draw a blank.
Yeah.
Just stop, breathe, and think back to your last point, and your mind will kind of remember where you are. But a much better option would be to have cue cards. Print out a few cue cards for you, right? Don't print out the whole speech, 1,000 words. That's not going to work because you can't find it in a size 10 font and it looks unprofessional. So get cue cards like I'd say A6 or A7, whatever the size is, little cards, and you can either handwrite them or print them, just keywords, and you can put them in your pocket, you can keep them in your hand, it's fine. Or if you have a podium in front of you, you can put them there and make sure. And if you get to that point where you don't know where you are, just smile, breathe, and that little pause there will allow the audience just to recollect themselves. And whatever you said last will then just kind of sink into their minds. And like you said earlier, most people are there and they want you to succeed. No one's going to go, sure, I knew you're going to, I knew you were going to do it. You're going to, it's no. People are happy to see you succeed. They don't want you to stop halfway and then run off the stage. So if you are, and what feels like to you like 3 minutes is actually 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Go on to your next cue card. You read the next point. You breathe, smile, and carry on. Don't apologize, right? Even if something happens with the technology. Let's say you are doing a presentation, or the lights go, or the whole place goes dead, or the microphone dies. Carry on talking, just speak a bit louder until they bring you another one, you know? just make as if nothing goes wrong, because that builds your confidence, and that builds the kudos that people have in you, and they think this person is great at what they do.
I like that. No, that is really good, because I think that's one thing that all of us will worry about. I suppose everybody on this call, that's one thing that we're all going to be anxious about, is that, okay, I've done my preparation, I've done my planning, I'm confident. Then what if something goes wrong? What if I start to get the shakes, or my adrenaline's pumping, or I'm starting to sweat? Like, what do I do? And I think that's right. You know, you're going to go back to breathing. Remember what you've just done. Remember you can do this. And it's that little pep talk, isn't it, in your head as well? Like, come on, you've got this, it's fine. Nobody else knows what you're meant to be saying next, so you can say anything because they don't know what's on your next card. So say something to calm yourself down, and then carry on. I've got a couple more questions for you. I know you mentioned recording yourself. Can you just clarify for us again, kind of what are the benefits of recording yourself and listening to it? So why should we do that really as a preparation tool?
Well, first of all, you see yourself from the outside. You know, your voice sounds different to you inside your own head than it does on a recording. So first of all, you'll hear what other people hear you like. And you can also hear the speed at which you're going. So if you just want to record the voice, like most phones have a voice recorder, so you could do that as a beginning, and then you can hear how you speak something. Is it too fast? Is it too slow? Do you slur on the words? Do you use too many acronyms or that kind of thing? When it's full video, you can then see things that you are doing wrong. Are you looking at the camera? Like right now, I'm looking at you, I'm looking at the camera, but you're down there. You know, if I sat here looking at the screen and there's 10 people and I'm speaking to them, all they see is my forehead. I need to look at the camera. So it builds up your confidence. And even if you have to stick a little sticker around there that says, look here, then you get used to it. And that's also part of building confidence. So it shows you what you look like, it shows you what you sound like, and it shows you at what speed you do. And things like you mentioned earlier, am I tapping my foot? Am I snapping my finger? Have I got a pen that's going tap, tap, tap like this all the time? You know, so then you realize those things and you go, ooh, okay, I shouldn't do that. So that's how you start eliminating things that break away from your confidence and other things that build to your confidence. Does that answer the question?
That's perfect. That's perfect. Have you, since you're an expert professional speaker, have you ever had any blips, issues, or anything that's happened to you while you've been speaking live?
All the time. I'm great at, I come up with these one-liners and jokes and things, and people say, oh yeah, you should use that up. Or I'll sit and I'll write things down. I'll think, oh, okay. So when Karen's done, it's my turn, and she mentioned that, so I'm actually going to say X, Y, and Z. And I get up there, and what was I talking about? It's gone.
Yeah.
It's on the table over there, and I didn't bring it with me, and then I have to wing it. It happens all the time. It happens to the best people in the world, the best speakers, people that get paid 70, 80, 100,000 pounds for 20 minutes. Those people also forget. They also have key cards. Yeah. You think that Barack Obama was such a great speaker. He had auto cue, and I'm sure you know what an auto cue is. And people in the events industry know. For those that don't, it's a little mirror that sits somewhere on the other side, or a big screen, and it's got all his words on it, and there's a camera right there. So what looks to you like he's just waffling off his speech, he's actually reading the words. And that's how they become that good. And if you don't have auto cue, then you have a little piece of paper in your pocket that you can take out and glance down at and know, right, this is point 1, this is point 2, and I'm going to talk about that. Always have a redundancy, have triple redundancy, as we always learned in IT. You always, if one thing fails, don't have another backup, have 2 backups, have a backup for the backup, you know? Like I've seen so many, and I used to do DJing at a mobile disco company for a lot of weddings. And I'd speak to the bride, the groom, and sometimes the bride as well. And I say to them, make 4 copies of your speech. So A, you're going to forget the first one. B, you're going to misplace the second one. And then the third one is going to be, you know, your mates are going to grab off you because they think they're funny. So you have the 4th one in your pocket just in case. So build redundancy. And yes, it happens all the time. It's happened to me many times. It's happened to me where the power was cut in a place where I was presenting. literally a digger cut the power outside. But because I knew what I was talking about, I could just carry on. There was no PowerPoint presentation, but I could carry on and I could finish my presentation.
And the thing is, if that happens, actually the presentation can be sent afterwards. What people want to hear is how you're adding meat to what's on the presentation. So actually that doesn't really matter. And you know, like with what we do at SheerEdge and our recordings we send them out afterwards, because people don't always take all the information in, because there's lots to listen to and other things going on. So it kind of makes sense as well that, you know, if that does happen, don't worry about it, because it's fine. They can always be sent out, or they can be posted online somewhere. So the other thing I was going to just say before we conclude is that there's no right or wrong way to, I suppose, to prepare for a presentation. That some people do post-it notes, some people have cue cards, some people write out a complete script, some people just have pointers and they're happy to do it. So I suppose to everyone that's listening, you probably agree with that, it isn't formulaic. You know, you don't have to do what somebody else does. You kind of find your own way to write and to learn it as well, you know, and then you follow the guidance and, you know, prepare and keep practicing it whatever way suits you.
100%. And it's what works for you. And whilst there are certain do's and don'ts, such as when you're doing it online, which a lot of us are doing now, you know, face the camera, and no one sees what's around me here. You know, I have all my notes at the back of the computer, but you don't see that, you know. So do what works for you. Stick it on the roof, stick it behind you, have the correct lighting, even if it's just a bright torch, you know. It doesn't have to be professional, expensive equipment. It doesn't matter. You do it the way you do it, but there are certain do's and don'ts. Look at the camera. There's an opening, there's a middle, there's an end. You know, breathe, speak slower, have pauses, so that you get to a certain point and you make the point and you continue. And that 2 seconds there allows the audience to kind of think, because if you're just speaking and speaking and speaking and speaking, they will lose you, because someone might still be thinking about point number 1 and you're already on point number 3 and 4. So slow it down, and it's all, again, planning and preparation.
Fab. Well, Brian, I think we're going to conclude our chat there, because I know me and you could talk for quite a long time. So we best stop now before it gets to like 5:30 and we're still talking. So I just wanted to say a really big thank you, Brian, for giving up your time today to talk to us and giving us some really great tips about how to present more confidently. I think, you know, for me, it has been really useful, really beneficial. Brian's very kindly produced a masterclass for us all about presenting yourself confidently, which will be on our SheerEdge website. So we'll send the link out to you after this session. And I just want to say as well, a big thank you to Gino, who behind the scenes makes sure that we're all kind of working normally, that we're streaming out to Facebook, and Brian and I look half decent when we're talking to you. So a really big thank you there, and thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate you supporting these live chats. So thank you very much, and we'll see you again for the next SheerEdge live chat. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Brian.